Hello, and thanks so much for tuning in today for your yoga practice. In today's class, we'll be doing a yin practice to cultivate a sense of stillness. I suggest having some props around for your practice today. If you have yoga blocks, those are great. A bolster or a big pillow, maybe a nice blanket, or and please feel free to substitute any items you have around you for your comfort. Towels work really well for blankets. Couch pillows or something firm will work for the rest as well. And I'm going to stay seated for the opening, but I'd like you all to start in a reclined butterfly position. So I'll show you what that looks like. You'll lie down on your backs with soles of the feet together. Let the knees drop open, arms by your sides, palms turned up. Now, some options for support here. We'll be here for a good 5 or 6 minutes. So if you feel a lot of pull from the inner thigh and groin, this is a great place for those blocks to be used. You could take the blocks or even blankets and support them underneath the knees, the hips, the lower legs, right? That can add a little bit more ease. My intention for our practice today is for you to find stillness. So keep that in mind as you set yourself up, even for this very first posture. It's all right to have some, I say discomfort, but discomfort lightly. For the most part today, I'd like you to, as best as possible, find ease in your postures. Find a place where you can rest in stillness. So let's take a full deep breath in here. And as you exhale, soft sigh out, let that breath go. Let's take another full deep breath in. Exhale. Good, let that breath go. If it's comfortable for you, allow your eyes to softly close. As your eyes close, your awareness turns in. So as you're tuning in to your posture, to your body, to your space today, what do you notice? Allow this first little bit while we're in the posture to allow you the space to settle in, to arrive, to settle down. So when you think of the word stillness, what comes to mind? Right? Stillness, usually we think of it as being the opposite of movement. It's like this elusive state of being. Stillness can always be found within. A state of stillness, and our practice today as well, is designed to bring about equilibrium, a sense of balance between body, mind, spirit. We'll go on a journey today using the body, using asana, the physical postures, to reach a peaceful and relaxed state. In stillness, a new sense of peace is discovered. And from stillness, we are brought back to our center. The postures I've chosen today, so the physical part of the practice, is designed to relieve tension, to open and create space in the body, and ultimately to de-stress both body and mind. Stillness isn't just lack of movement. I like to think of stillness as an energetic quality of being. Even if we're in the midst of a chaotic situation, if we are tuned into center, to grounding, we can find a sense of stillness amidst chaos, right? Think of the eye of the storm. Even in the midst of a big, giant hurricane, if you were in the center, it's still, it's calm. Almost as if stillness and chaos are two parts of the same whole, right? Keep tuning in. Keep tuning in here to your breath, to sensation in the body. How do you find stillness in your life amidst chaos? Do you have something that grounds you? Maybe an activity? Maybe you have a mantra that you use in the mind. Maybe you have a particular favorite activity that you save for downtime. Maybe it's just sipping a nice cup of tea quietly or reading a book. Maybe it's tuning into the breath. I think probably the most challenging aspect of stillness or idea of stillness is stillness in the mind. We'll work on cultivating some of that today. Creating stillness, stillness in the body, in the breath, in the thoughts. But perhaps today, that in and of itself could be your intention, stillness. And when you notice that you've gotten distracted in your practice, you've gone off on a tangent or a memory or a thought, every time that happens, can you bring yourself back by using the touchstone of stillness, the mantra of stillness, to bring you back to here and now, to bring you back to this moment, to bring you back to this peaceful, relaxed state. Take one more breath here. And then on an inhale, you'll take hands to the outer knees, lift the knees up. So now soles of the feet are on the floor. If you used any props for your opening posture in butterfly, you can set them off to the side. Let's hug the knees into the chest. You might like to rock a little bit side to side. Our next posture will come up onto hands and knees. We'll take a lizard pose. So before we do that, just take a minute to do any kind of moving around, opening the hips, just hugging the knees into the chest. When you are ready, roll over to one side or the other. Press yourself up and come onto all fours. We'll take lizard pose. So lizard is a kneeling lunge. I'll be choosing to use my blanket underneath the knees and the back for support. And I'm also going to bring my blocks and bolster up to the top of my mat, just in case I want to pull that in to support. We'll be holding each side for about 5 minutes. And remember, my intention is for you to find stillness in your postures today, which means that we go in until we feel a little bit of sensation, but not so much sensation that we can't be still. We can't sustain the posture. Let's work with the left hip first. So bring your right foot forward and walk your right foot out wide to the right so that we can bring both hands inside the knee. Allow your hips to drop forward and down so they're close to the ground, and we're feeling stretch and sensation in the front of the left hip and thigh somewhere. Doing your best to keep your pelvis in a neutral position so we're not turning it out one way or the other. I better get before I keep talking, I gotta get that timer set up here. Feel free to bring forearms or elbows down to blocks. Right, 5 minutes is a long time to support weight on the hands. If you don't have yoga blocks, but you've got a couple of big cushions or a bolster, another nice tool to use here is just the bolster or the cushion, anything that you can soften the body into. So I said, we're going to hold this for 5 minutes. We've already been here for a little over 30 seconds. So take the next 30 seconds or so and settle in. Continue to explore the shape, the props that you have around. Allowing the hips to drop forward and down. And then we'll work toward cultivating a sense of stillness. Excuse me. So stillness first. See if you can find that stillness in the body. So find the appropriate amount of sensation of stretch, making sure it's not too much, right? We don't want it to be too much so that we tense and tighten the body, but just enough. And then vow to be still physically for the remainder of the posture. Mhm. My yoga teacher, one of them, used to tell me that especially in a yin posture, the posture begins when you want to get out of it. Right? When you want to bring movement back into the body or wriggle around, that's when the posture gets difficult and challenging. So do your best today to maintain stillness as long as you can. Sometimes the need for us to move might be an indication that we've dropped in too deeply. And perhaps we need to back out a little bit. And then revisit stillness. Stillness in the body. Then see if you can find stillness in your breath. Now, that doesn't mean to stop breathing, but see if you can find a sense of balance in the breath. Probably the most difficult or challenging bit of stillness is cultivating a sense of stillness in the mind. Often, when the body is still and the breath is quiet, the mind seemingly becomes more active. Or maybe it's just that we're more aware of it. Keep using your breath. Keep tuning back into that touchstone, that intention, the mantra of stillness, and keep coming back to the breath. We've got a little while longer here. Maybe about 5 or 6 more breaths. Two breaths more, please. And then slowly start to make your way out of the posture, feeling all of those feels along the way. Take the right leg back. You might take child's pose, maybe just sit on the feet. We'll be going right into the other side. So as you're ready, your left foot will step forward. As the left foot comes forward, left foot walks out to the left so that you can bring both hands inside the knee, allowing the hips to drop forward and down so the hips are low to the ground or low-ish, right? Feeling stretch and sensation in the front of the right hip and thigh-ish, right? Doesn't mean that you won't feel it in other places. And once more, just a reminder, do your best to keep your hips, your pelvis neutral, right? So we're not twisted out to one side or the other. And settling in, so your front heel is on the ground, right? So we've got that foot forward enough that the heel is grounded. So we're here almost a minute now already. So if you'd like to come a little bit lower, if you're still supported on the hands, you might explore coming down to forearms. And settling in. You might be tuning in to differences between this side of the body and last. We use each side of the body a little differently, so you might feel it. As you notice sensation in the body, notice whether there is any tension or holding around the sensation. And in a yin practice, we do our best to release that tension. So rather than gripping in the body, can you soften more? Softening, just allowing yourself to drop in a little more deeply. Stillness in the breath. Nice, calm, even breathing. Continuing to tune in to thoughts. Not so much tuning in so that you can follow the chain of chain of events in the thoughts, but more tuning in to watch the thoughts as they come. And you might even visualize taking that thought and just placing it on a cloud and let it float on by so that you can come back to the space between the thoughts, the space of stillness. A little while longer. Just a couple breaths more here. Slowly, slowly start to make your way out. Hips go back, left leg goes back, and then decide where you go from here. We'll take about a minute to either find stillness, right? You might choose to go to child's pose and just rest those hips. You might like something with a little more movement. If you prefer, you could take downward facing dog. Just a few breaths more here, whatever it is that you've chosen, whether you're choosing stillness or a little bit of movement. And let's everyone take a really brief downward facing dog. We're only going to use the down dog today to bring yourself up. So once you're in down dog, hips are high, walk your hands back to your feet. Little bend in the knees, hands on the shins. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, fold all the way back down. The next inhale will bring us up. Walk the hands up the shins, find your flat back. And then inhale again and bring yourself all the way up to stand. Right. So our next posture is something we don't often do in a yin practice. Often we don't stand up. We're pretty low to the ground, but we'll incorporate an inversion here. And we'll take wide leg forward bend with some support. So if you have yoga blocks, grab those. If you're using a bolster or a couple of cushions, grab that. We'll use our props to support the crown of the head as we drop into wide leg forward fold. Now, again, use what things you have around you. If you don't have things that you can stack up like this, a small stool, a chair, something like that might work as well. But take a wide leg position. So keeping feet on the mat and have your feet be parallel, soft bend in the knees, and just make your way down to a wide leg fold with the head weight drop down, supporting the crown of the head. So depending on your flexibility, you might just take a block or something and allow the crown of the head, that's the very top of the head, not the forehead. See if you can get the crown of the head to come down onto the block. So we're supporting our forward bend. Now remember, you're going to use whatever props you have. right? You might even stack a couple of things. If you have a cushion and a block, you could stack them on top of one another to add support. Likely, however you're set up, you're probably going to be feeling some stretch and sensation in the backs of the legs, the back side of the body. And we're inverting, we're going upside down. So a little bit of a perspective change here, right? A change of view. It's also a really great posture going upside down like this. As the head is below the heart. This helps to reverse the flow of fluids in the body, giving the immune system a little boost. And as well, because we've got all of this great oxygenated blood rushing up to the head, like giving ourselves a little brain smoothie. Now, of course, you're always practicing with your body. If going upside down for any length of time for you is not appropriate, you might just choose child's pose here, right? Hips to the heels. Just let the forehead rest down to the mat. Allowing the body to soften, the breath to soften. Allowing the mind to become more quiet, more still. As you notice the thoughts as they keep coming, can you continue to imagine placing that thought on the cloud? Just let it float on by. Back to that space between the thoughts. Maybe over time, noting how you're cultivating more space, more stillness between the thoughts. Little while longer here. Very slowly. Take your head up off of your support. Start to turn your gaze forward. Soften the knees, bend them more. Turn your heels in and your toes out. Walk the hands up to the knees. Keep the head weight drop down and very slowly, just like one vertebrae at a time, start to bring yourself up. So we were upside down for 5 minutes. Come up slow, use support as you bring yourself all the way back up. Then you can heel toe those feet in. Shake those legs out. Beautiful. Come on back down to your mat. We'll come on to hands and knees again. Next posture is called melting heart or anahatanasana. So we'll open up the chest. We'll still have the head down and the heart up, but not nearly as intense of an inversion. So I'm bringing the blanket back in underneath my knees. And there's options to use props for this as well. I'll show you a couple of variations here and you choose what works best for your body. So option one, just coming onto hands and knees, walk the hands forward so the hands are out in front of the shoulders, then allow the chest, the heart to melt down and back. You'll notice that my hips stay pretty well stacked over the knees and the forehead comes down to the ground with the arms extended. So we get a really great stretch through the backs of the arms across the top of the chest. All right, options from there. You could bring a block in to let the forehead rest if it's not coming all the way down to the ground. You could also bring a bolster or blanket or cushion in to let the forehead come down or the forearms come down too, right, for a deeper stretch. We won't be holding this one quite as long. We'll do just 3 minutes here rather than the 5 or 6 that we've done for the other postures today. And I've already started the timer. So continue to settle in to find the right amount of sensation and stretch for your body today. Settle in. Find stillness. You don't need to continue to have the elbows and the forearms lifted, right? You can bring the forearms down to the ground. We still have the arms overhead. We're still allowing the chest, the heart to melt. Melting heart posture. Anahatanasana. I stretch the backs of the arms, the chest, the front of the body. Because our hips are elevated, might also be getting a little decompression in the spine, making space. And if this is inappropriate or doesn't work for your body in any way, feel free to come into a child's pose. So you just slide the hips back to the heels more, child's pose, and just allow the forehead to rest down. Couple breaths more. We'll slowly start to exit. Walk the hands closer so they're supported under your shoulders. Press yourself up to all fours. Before we move into the next posture, take a few cow and cats here. Just arching the spine, rounding the spine. Just breathe through it. Notice how that feels in your body. And And next up, we'll move into pigeon pose, or in yin, it's called swan. And we'll do the right hip first. So we do have options. We'll go back to a longer hold now. So last posture, we did 3 minutes. We'll come back to 5 again for each side. So options, you could bring the left knee forward, walking the right leg back, so you're in the more upright variation. From here, you could take forearms down, bring in a bolster, let the forehead rest. Alternate variation might be lying down on your back with the left ankle over the right knee. From here, you can choose to keep the foot on the floor or bring the right leg up and interlace hands behind the thigh. All right, you do you. I'm going to get the timer going. And I'm going to choose my variation as well. I'll be taking the more upright variation, but again, you do you. Pull in your props. Use as much proppage, as much support as you like today. So our practice is as restorative as it is opening. About at that 1 minute mark. This is about where all the fidgeting, right? Maybe find a place of stillness now in the body. We've explored, we found the right shape, the right props. And now we vow to just be still. We've got just the right amount of sensation, that we're feeling it, but it's not so much that we tense and tighten around it. Keep coming back to the breath, back to your intention, your mantra, stillness. Using our postures today to open up, to make space in the body, to make space in the mind. Cultivate stillness. A little while longer. Slowly start to make your way out. And we'll simply transition right to the other side. So if you are reclined on your back, just take left ankle over right knee, transition to right ankle over left knee. If you're upright, come to sit, bring the right knee forward and take the left leg back. Taking time to ease your way into the shape, into the posture. Finding the right amount of sensation. But not so much that we can't maintain being still. About at that 1 minute mark again. So can you, for the remainder of the posture, just vow to be still? No more pulling, no more striving to get deeper in the posture. Allow gravity and time to carry you in more deeply. Keep coming back to the sensation in the body. The sensation in the outer right hip. Keep watching it. Watch as it drops in deeper as you make more space in the body. Keep tuning back into the body. See if you can catch any tension or holding. Sometimes as we drop deeper and deeper in, you might see residual tension or holding. And sometimes it's in a surprising place, right? It might not be in the outer hip. Maybe you've transferred the tension to the shoulders. the jaw, cultivating more softness, more space. And slowly use the arms for support. Start to bring yourself up and out. If you are reclined on your back, I'll ask you to come up to sit. If you're already upright, just swing both legs forward. After the pigeon, before we go into the next posture, I like to bring in just a little bit of movement. I'll stretch the legs out in front and bounce the knees a bit, maybe roll side to side. So for our next shape, our next asana, we'll take caterpillar pose or Paschimottanasana, basically. 2 straight leg forward fold. So take the legs out in front of you. If the hamstrings have a lot of tightness today, you're more than welcome to take rolled up blanket or towel, put that underneath the knees. I'll suggest taking a bolster or a stacked up blanket or something, maybe a couple of pillows up on top of the legs to support the body in our forward bend today. Now, use again whatever props you have around you to support the body. I happen to have a yoga bolster, so that's great. But it's not necessary, it's not required. Just stack some things up. Hopefully enough of a stack that it allows you to take the forehead and rest it down. Of course, you could also, right? So I have all these props here, but you could also do this posture without props at all. Just allow the arms to come alongside the body or even on the shins, palms up. And just let the whole upper body drop forward. If you find in your body that rather than the torso dropping forward, it feels more like you're being pulled backward, some suggestions. Bend those knees. In fact, bend them as much as you need to get the forward tilt on the pelvis. You could also put something underneath the hips to elevate them, all right? Sometimes it takes a little bit of experimentation, right? Which is why we always say the first minute of the posture, explore. Use the props that you have. Find a place where you can support the body. So here in this posture, the areas of sensation, as you might guess, are going to be the whole back side of the body. So backs of the legs, the glutes maybe, the low back, whole length of the spine. So as you settle in here into this shape, check those areas of the body for tightness or holding or gripping. Do your best to soften and release in those areas. Gripping and tightening contains, right? It kind of draws energy in, compacts the space, fills it up. We're cultivating today instead a sense of spaciousness, of opening. So soften the holding, release the holding. Find a sense of letting go. In the letting go, we make space.
in the letting go, all things get done. A couple breaths more here. Slowly plant the hands down on the ground. Use the strength of the arms to just roll yourself up one vertebrae at a time. Crown of the head being the very last thing to come upright. One more posture before Shavasana. We'll take Matsyasana or fish pose. So it's a supported chest opener. So we're going to open the chest, the shoulders, and the throat. Now, there are lots of options for this. So this is really going to be tuning into whatever props you have around. I'll show one variation here using a bolster. Again, this could be any other kind of cushion, and a yoga block, but I'll show you a couple of others as well. So using these two props as a setup, I'll guide myself back so that my shoulder blades, right, that bra line area, is resting on the block. Now you'll notice I have my block going crosswise, lengthwise, not along the spine. So as I drop back, shoulder blades can rest. And then using the bolster here to support the neck and the shoulders so that I can allow all of the upper body to just be open here. And then legs will extend. Now, if these aren't the props that you have, something else that you could do is just using two blocks. You could take the blocks next to one another. Again, both lengthwise, about 6 inches apart. And then you've got shoulder blades on the one block and the head on the other. Again, legs straight. And I'll show you one final option. And you might already be in the posture, you might have already chosen yours. Final option, depending on props, is if all you have today is a blanket, we could take the blanket and roll it up or fold it up, place that again where the shoulder blades are, and then lie back on top of the blanket support. Again, it's a little more mild, but we still have the chest, the shoulders, and the throat open. All right, I have already set the timer. So if you need any final fidgeting around, settling into your shape. Settling into stillness. Keep coming back to sensation, to breath. Keep cultivating that sense of stillness, that elusive state of being. That's the opposite of what we are during the day, right? We aren't human beings, we're doing, we're human doings. Just taking this time today to simply be. Tune in again. Check the body for any residual tension or holding, gripping. Can you just let the feet flop open, release all the tension and holding in the legs? Soften the hips, the spine. Just let the body melt down. Just a few breaths more here. If the arms are overhead or up by your sides, just bring them down to support. Bend your knees, bring the soles of the feet to the floor. Remember that you're elevated in some way. Roll to one side or the other, all the way over, and then use the strength of the arms to bring yourself up, but not up all the way, just enough so that you can slide your props out of the way and return to lying all the way flat on your backs for Shavasana. Ah, legs extend, arms alongside the body with the palms up. Soften and close the eyes if they're not already. Just like I invited you in our opening, tune into the body. Just take a mental scan. Notice what you're noticing. What is it to be in this body now in this moment? Continue cultivating a sense of peace, of stillness. And maybe as you've experienced in our practice today, you can sense that the easiest way to tune into that place of stillness, even in the midst of chaos, is by tuning into your breath. Allow the breath to help you cultivate stillness, peace, to help you find your center. I'd like to share a poem called Time Enough. And I'm not sure of the author, but time enough. The wisdom voice says, be still. Take time for what is truly important. I imagine myself diving, leaving behind an untidy trail of what's not needed. I cast aside worry, which has never brought me anything even remotely useful. I let go of all doubt and all the countless ways I tie myself in knots. Scattered behind me like discarded clothes are old beliefs, selfish agendas, my fixed and false identities, attachment to particular results. Weightless and miraculously free, my eyes shine with wonder and enthusiasm. The wisdom voice says, there is always time enough for joy. I love that image in the mind. I imagine myself diving, leaving behind an untidy trail of what's not needed. Right? Maybe you can imagine yourself on the high dive, getting ready to go, and just leaving behind all of the things no longer needed so that you can cultivate that deeper sense of stillness. Begin to strengthen and deepen your inhalations as we start calling the energy back to the body, beginning your return to your usual state of alertness. You might wiggle fingers and toes, softly rock the head side to side. And as you're ready to move more, making your way up to sit. Sitting up tall, perhaps even with eyes still closed. And then we'll join the hands in Anjali Mudra, palm against palm, bowing chin to your chest. Bowing into the light and spaciousness in your heart. And taking a moment for gratitude, always closing with a little gratitude, gratitude to yourself, especially for taking this time for you today. And as always, I thank you for sharing your practice today. Namaste.